I've always been a man of routine. Wake at 6, coffee by 6:30, out the door by 7. My wife, Emily, would still be in bed when I left. Her auburn hair splayed across the pillow like some Renaissance painting I'd never fully appreciate. She was beautiful in a way I didn't deserve. Soft curves, sharp wit, a laugh that could pull me out of any gloom. We'd been married 12 years, and I thought I knew her like the creases in my own palm. I'm a structural engineer, a guy who builds things to last, and I figured our marriage was one of my better projects. Stable, solid, unshakable. That morning, though, something felt off. It was a Wednesday in late October, the air crisp enough to sting my lungs as I locked the front door. Emily had been up late the night before, tapping away on her laptop, claiming it was work. She's a graphic designer, freelancing for ad agencies, so late nights weren't unusual. But she'd been distracted lately, distant, like she was looking through me instead of at me. I chalked it up to stress. A big project, she'd said. I didn't push. I trusted her. That was my first mistake. The day passed in a blur of blueprints and meetings. I work for a firm downtown, designing bridges and high-rises, and I love the precision of it. Numbers don't lie, steel doesn't bend unless you make it. Around 3, my phone buzzed with a text from Emily. Asterisk running errands. Might be late. Don't wait up. Asterisk simple enough. I didn't think much of it. I replied with a thumbs up and went back to my drafting table. By 6, I was home, the house quiet except for the hum of the fridge. I heated leftovers, watched some documentary about deep-sea creatures, and figured she'd be back soon. She wasn't. It was past 11 when I heard the garage door rumble. I'd been dozing on the couch, a blanket half draped over me. Emily slipped in, her coat still on, her cheeks flushed like she'd been rushing. "Hey," she said, avoiding my eyes. "Sorry. Got caught up at the store." I nodded, too tired to question it. She smelled faintly of something sweet. Not her usual perfume, but I didn't clock it then. I should have. Looking back, that was the moment the cracks started forming, hairline fractures in the foundation I'd built my life on. I just didn't see them yet. The next few days were normal enough. We ate breakfast together, talked about mundane things, grocery lists, the neighbor's yappy dog. But her phone was always close now, face down on the table, and she'd snatch it up if it buzzed. I started noticing other things. A new necklace I hadn't seen before, a pair of heels she hadn't worn in years suddenly back in rotation. Little shifts, like the tilt of a beam before it buckles. I told myself I was paranoid. 12 years, I thought. She wouldn't. Not Emily. Then came Friday. I got home early, planning to surprise her with takeout from that Thai place she loves. The house was empty, her car gone. No note, no text. I called her straight to voicemail. An hour later, she texted, "Meeting a client, lost track of time." I stared at that message for too long, the pad thai cooling on the counter. Something gnawed at me, a quiet, insistent ache. I didn't sleep that night. I sat in the dark, listening to the house settle, and started to wonder just how well I really knew my wife. The weekends stretched out like a tightrope I didn't know I was walking. Emily was home, but she wasn't there. She'd smile, make small talk, even lean into me on the couch while we watched some forgettable movie, but it felt rehearsed, like she was playing a part. I kept catching her glancing at her phone, her fingers twitching toward it like it was a lifeline. Saturday night, she said she was tired, kissed my cheek, and went to bed early. I stayed up, staring at the TV, the glow flickering across the living room like a warning I couldn't read. Sunday morning, I decided to test the water. "Let's go for a hike," I said over coffee. "Weather's perfect." She hesitated, her mug halfway to her lips. "I've got some edits to finish," she replied, too quick. "Deadline's tomorrow." I nodded, but the ache in my gut deepened. She disappeared into her office. Our spare bedroom, cluttered with sketch pads and her ancient desktop, and I heard the door click shut. Not locked, just closed. A boundary I hadn't noticed before. I'm not a suspicious guy by nature. I don't snoop. But that afternoon, while she was in the shower, her phone buzzed on the kitchen counter. I glanced at it, couldn't help it. The screen lit up with a name, Mark. No last name, just Mark. The message preview said, "Missed you last night." My stomach dropped like I'd stepped off a ledge. I didn't unlock it, didn't dig further. I just stood there, the sound of the shower drumming in my ears, and felt the first real tremor in my world. Who was Mark? A client? A friend? I tried to piece it together. She'd never mentioned a Mark, not in 12 years. I thought back to her late nights, the flushed cheeks, that sweet scent I couldn't place. My mind spun, but I didn't confront her. Not yet. I needed proof, something concrete like rebar in a slab. I'm an engineer. I don't act on hunches. So I waited. Monday, I left for work as usual, but I couldn't focus. My boss noticed, asked if I was okay. I brushed it off, said I hadn't slept well. Truth was, I hadn't slept at all. That evening, Emily was home when I got there, cooking dinner, spaghetti, my favorite. She was chatty, almost too chatty, asking about my day, laughing at some dumb joke I made. Felt forced, like she was overcompensating. I played along, but my eyes kept drifting to her phone, silent on the counter. No buzz, no Mark. I started to doubt myself. Maybe I'd misread it. Maybe it was nothing. Then Tuesday hit. I had a site visit, but it wrapped early, so I headed home around noon. Emily's car was in the driveway, odd for a workday. I walked in quietly, expecting to find her at her desk. Instead, I heard voices from the bedroom. Hers soft and giggling, and another deeper, male. My chest tightened. I set my keys down silently and crept toward the hall. The door was ajar, just enough to see her sitting on the bed, her back to me. A man stood by the window, broad-shouldered, dark hair, adjusting his tie. I didn't know him, but I knew enough. My wife, my Emily, was with someone else in our house, our room. I didn't barge in. I didn't yell. I backed away, grabbed my keys and left. The rage hadn't hit yet. It was coming, though. I could feel it building, slow and heavy, like a storm rolling in over the horizon. Driving away from the house, my hands gripped the steering wheel so tight my knuckles went white. I didn't know where I was going, just away. The image of them burned into my skull. Emily on our bed, that stranger by the window. I couldn't unsee it. My phone stayed silent. She didn't know I'd been there, didn't know I'd glimpsed her secret. I ended up at a diner on the edge of town. Some greasy spoon I'd never bothered with before. I sat in a corner booth, ordered coffee I didn't drink, and let the pieces fall into place. His name was Mark. I was sure of it now. The text, the late nights, the lies. It all lined up like a blueprint I'd been too blind to read. I didn't know who he was yet, but I'd find out. I'm good at solving problems, breaking them down into manageable parts. This was just another project, I told myself. A structure to dismantle piece by piece. But it wasn't steel or concrete I was dealing with, it was my life, my marriage, my trust. And her. I thought about confronting her right then, storming back home and demanding answers. But that's not me. I don't build on shaky ground. I test the soil first. I needed more details, evidence, a plan. So I sat there, the coffee going cold, and started to think like the engineer I am. What did I know? She was meeting him in our home. She'd lied about her schedule. She was comfortable enough to bring him there, which meant this wasn't new. How long had it been? Weeks? Months? Years? The questions piled up, each one a weight pressing down on my chest. I drove back home around 5, timing it like I'd had a full day. Emily was in the kitchen, humming, chopping vegetables like nothing had happened. "Hey, you're late," she said, smiling. I forced a grin, nodded. "Traffic," I lied. She didn't notice the strain in my voice, or if she did, she didn't care. We ate dinner, stir-fry her specialty, and I watched her across the table, studying every move. The way she twirled her fork, the way her eyes flicked to her phone when she thought I wasn't looking. She was good at this, I realized. Too good. That night, I couldn't sleep beside her. I lay there, listening to her breathe, wondering how she could be so calm. I slipped out of bed around 2, grabbed her phone from the nightstand. She changed her passcode, used to be our anniversary, but now it rejected me. Another crack. I didn't push it. I'd figure it out later. Instead, I went to her laptop in the office. She'd left it unlocked. A rare slip. I opened her email, scrolled through. Nothing obvious, no love notes, no smoking gun. But then I saw it. A thread with M. Reynolds. Buried in her work folder. Subject lines about project updates. But the tone was off. Too casual, too warm. One said, "Can't wait to see you tomorrow." Dated last week. My pulse quickened. I didn't stop there. I checked her cloud storage, years of design files, but also photos. Hidden in a folder labeled Old Work. I found them. Pictures of her and him. Smiling at a cafe. Arms around each other on a beach I didn't recognize. Time-stamped 6 months ago. 6 months. Half a year of this right under my nose. I sat back, staring at the screen, the room spinning. This wasn't a fling. This was a life she'd built behind my back. And I'd paid for it. Every dinner, every mortgage check, every quiet moment I thought we'd shared. I closed the laptop, my hands steady now. The rage was there, but it was cold, precise. I'd use it. The next morning, I played my part. Kissed her goodbye, left for work, acted like the husband she thought I was. Inside, though, I was drafting something new, not a bridge or a building, but a reckoning. I'd spent the early hours piecing together what I knew. Mark Reynolds, whoever he was, had been in my home, in my life, for at least 6 months. Emily was living 2 stories, one with me, one with him. I needed more than photos and vague emails. I needed to know who he was, what he meant to her, and how deep this went. Then I'd decide what to do. At the office, I barely touched my projects. Instead, I dug into Mark Reynolds. A quick search online pulled up a dozen hits, common name, but I cross-referenced with her email domain and the photos. LinkedIn gave me the jackpot. Mark Reynolds, 38, marketing exec at a firm 2 towns over. His profile photo matched the man in her pictures. Square jaw, smug grin, the kind of guy who thinks he's untouchable. I scrolled his posts. Self-important drivel about disrupting the industry. A few shots of him at conferences. One from last month showed him at a bar, tagged with a location I recognized. A spot Emily had claimed to visit with friends a while back. The puzzle was filling in. I didn't stop there. I called a buddy from college, Dave, who runs a small PI gig on the side. "Need a favor," I said, keeping it vague. "Background on someone. Discreet." Dave didn't ask questions. Owed me from years ago when I helped him out of a jam. I gave him Mark's name, company, the basics. "Give me a couple days," he said. I hung up, feeling the first stirrings of control. Knowledge is leverage, and I was going to bury them with it. That night, Emily was late again. "Client meeting," she texted. I didn't reply. I sat in the living room, lights off, and waited. She rolled in at 9, all apologies and breezy excuses. "Traffic was a nightmare," she said, kicking off those heels. The ones she'd dusted off for him I now knew. I nodded, watched her move through the house like it was still hers to command. She didn't suspect a thing. Good. I needed her comfortable, oblivious while I built my case. The next day, I took it further. I installed a tracking app on my own phone, linked it to our shared car insurance. Her location pinged up instantly. She wasn't at her client's office downtown. She was at a hotel 20 miles away. I stared at the dot on the map, pulsing like a heartbeat, and felt the cold rage sharpen into something surgical. I drove there, parked across the street, and watched. Her car was in the lot, next to a sleek black Audi I didn't recognize. I didn't go in too risky, but I snapped photos, noted the time, 2:17 p.m. She was still inside when I left. Dave called that evening. "Got your guy," he said. "Mark Reynolds, divorced, no kids, lives in a condo off Maple. Decent salary, bit of a player, couple complaints from ex-coworkers about him being too friendly." "Your wife know him?" I paused, then said, "Yeah, work thing." Dave didn't push. He emailed me the file. Addresses, phone records, even a parking ticket from last week near our house. I read it in the dark, Emily asleep upstairs, and started to see the shape of my revenge. It wouldn't be loud or messy. It'd be precise, devastating, something they'd never see coming. By Thursday, I had enough to act. The photos, the tracking data, Dave's report, It was a scaffold, strong and unyielding. But I wasn't ready to tear it all down yet. I wanted them to feel it first, to squirm without knowing why. Emily went about her morning routine, oblivious, sipping coffee while I watched her like a hawk sizing up prey. Big day, I asked casual. She shrugged. Just some revisions. Might grab lunch with a friend. Friend, right? I smiled, let her leave, then checked the tracker. Hotel again. Same Audi in the lot. Predictable. I started small. Mark's company had a public contact page. Easy enough to find his work email. I set up a burner account, sent a message. Asterisk enjoying the hotel stays? She's not as discreet as you think. Asterisk no signature, no specifics, just enough to rattle him. Then I waited. That afternoon, I called Emily's phone from my office line, pretending to be a client. Mrs. Carter? Got a question about your invoice, I said, disguising my voice. She stumbled, caught off guard. Can you email me? I'm in a meeting. I hung up, picturing her flustered, maybe glancing at Mark across the room. Good. Next, I hit her where she'd feel it, her work. She'd been sloppy, mixing personal and professional on that laptop. I logged into her cloud again, found a half-finished design project due tomorrow, a logo for some startup. I tweaked it, subtle but wrong. Colors off, fonts mismatched, a mess no client would accept. I saved it back, wiped my tracks. She'd noticed too late, scrambled to fix it, maybe missed the deadline. A crack in her perfect little world. That night, she came home frazzled. Rough day, she muttered, pouring wine. I nodded, sympathetic, while inside I churned with grim satisfaction. Anything I can do? I asked. She shook her head, distracted. Her phone buzzed. Mark, I'd bet. But she silenced it quick. I didn't push. I'd planted seeds. Now I'd watch them grow. Friday, I upped the ante. Dave had given me Mark's address. A swanky condo with a doorman who didn't care who came and went. I drove by, scoped it out, then mailed a package from a Dropbox, no return address. Inside, a cheap burner phone preloaded with one photo from her cloud. That beach shot of them cropped to just their faces. No note, just the image. Let him sweat, wondering who knew. Meanwhile, I called her insurance agent. Asked about updating our policy. Casual like, I mentioned her car being at odd spots lately. Really? The agent said, confused. I'll look into it. Enough to make her jump when they called her. By evening, the tension was palpable. Emily was on edge, snapping at me over nothing. Burnt toast, of all things. What's wrong? I asked, all innocence. Nothing, she hissed, storming off. Her phone stayed glued to her hand now, but she didn't text back when it lit up. Mark must have gotten the package. I pictured him pacing, paranoid, and it fueled me. This was just the start. Petty jabs to unsettle them. The real blow was coming. A collapse so complete they'd never recover. I went to bed that night, Emily restless beside me, and slept soundly for the first time in days. The foundation was set. Now I'd build. Saturday morning broke cold and gray, mirroring the steel in my resolve. Emily was up early, unusual for her, pacing the kitchen with her phone pressed to her ear. I caught snippets. Her voice low, urgent. No, I don't know. Just calm down. Okay? She didn't see me watching from the hall. Didn't notice the way I cataloged every twitch. Mark, I figured. The burner phone had landed, and he was rattled. Good. I poured coffee, played the oblivious husband, and asked, everything all right? She flinched, forced a smile. Yeah, just a work thing. Liar. I let her stew. That afternoon, I drove to the hardware store, needed supplies for a project. I told her. She didn't ask what. At the store, I grabbed paint thinner, duct tape, a cheap prepaid camera. Nothing suspicious on its own, but pieces for later. Back home, I checked the tracker. She'd gone to Mark's condo. I pictured them huddled, whispering, trying to figure out who was onto them. I smiled to myself, cold and sharp, and started phase 2. Her laptop was my next target. She'd left it open again, trusting our routine. I dug deeper this time, bank statements synced to her cloud. There it was, Withdrawals I hadn't noticed, small but regular, going to a Venmo account labeled MR Gifts, maybe, or hotel rooms. My money funneled to him. The audacity of it burned, but I kept my cool. I screenshot everything, emailed it to a dummy account I'd set up, then deleted the trail. Evidence was piling up, a stack of beams ready to crush them. That night, I pushed harder. She was in the shower when her phone buzzed. Unlocked for once. A slip I pounced on. Texts from Mark. Asterisk, who sent that photo? We need to meet. Asterisk, her reply. Asterisk, tomorrow. I'll figure it out. Asterisk, I didn't delete them. I added to the chaos. Using her phone, I sent him, meet me at the park, 10 a.m. bring cash. Then I erased it from her sent folder, left the rest intact. She'd see his confusion tomorrow, wonder what he meant when he asked about it. A little fracture in their trust. Nothing big yet, just a hairline split. Sunday, she left early, claiming a brunch with friends. The tracker said otherwise, Mark's place again. I followed at a distance, parked a block away, and watched through binoculars I dug out of the garage. She arrived, hurried inside. 10 minutes later, Mark stormed out, glancing around like a hunted animal. The park text had spooked him. He drove off. She stayed. I waited, then tailed him to the park. Empty, of course. He paced, checked his watch, swore under his breath. I snapped photos from my car, grinning. He'd think she'd set him up. Perfect. Back home, I rigged the camera. Tiny thing, motion activated, tucked into a vent in our bedroom. If he came here again, I'd have it on film. Emily returned that afternoon, pale and jumpy. Good brunch? I asked. She nodded, too quick. Yeah, fine. Her eyes darted to her phone, but she didn't touch it. She knew something was off, just couldn't place it yet. I let the silence stretch, heavy and sharp, and planned my next move. The web was tightening, and they were starting to feel the threads. Monday, the air in the house felt thick, like before a storm. Emily was quiet at breakfast, picking at her toast, her phone face down but buzzing twice. She ignored it, but I saw the tension in her jaw. Mark, no doubt, still reeling from the park fiasco. I left for work as usual, but I didn't go far. I parked 2 streets over, waited. Sure enough, her car pulled out 20 minutes later, headed for the hotel. I followed, keeping my distance, and watched her meet him in the lot. They argued, gestures sharp, voices muted by distance. I caught it on my phone's zoom lens, her pointing, him throwing up his hands. Trouble in paradise. At the office, I called Dave again. Need more, I said. Anything dirty. Debts, habits, skeletons. He grunted, promised to dig deeper. I spent the day sketching, not bridges, but their downfall. Emily's design career was her pride. Mark's job was his ego. I'd hit both hard. That evening, she was home when I got there, cooking again, some apology meal, maybe. I ate in silence, letting her ramble about her day. Lies piled on lies. The camera in the vent stayed quiet, but I knew it was only a matter of time. Tuesday, Dave delivered. Reynolds has a gambling streak, he said. Online poker, mostly. Lost big last year, took a loan to cover it. Still paying it off. I filed that away, leverage. Emily's weak spot was her reputation. I'd already dented it with the botched logo. Her client had emailed her that morning. CC'd me by mistake, since I'd handled their payment once. Disappointed with the revisions, it read, "We're reconsidering the contract." She'd been on the phone all day, smoothing it over, voice tight. I'd heard her from the hall, feigning concern when she hung up. Rough call, I asked. Yeah, she muttered. They're picky. That night I struck again. Using the burner account, I emailed Mark's boss, found the address on their site. Check his expense reports, I wrote. Hotel charges might surprise you. Anonymous, untraceable. Let them audit him, dig into his habits. If he was sloppy with Emily, he'd be sloppy there too. Then I turned to her phone. Passcode cracked after watching her type it that morning. Her birthday. Reversed. Amateur. I forwarded a few of their flirty texts to my email, then deleted the forwards. Insurance for later. Wednesday, she cracked. I came home to her pacing, eyes red. Something wrong? I asked, all innocence. Work's a mess, she snapped. And someone's, I don't know, messing with me. She didn't elaborate, but I saw the fear. Mark must have called, paranoid about the email. I nodded, poured her wine, played the supportive husband while my mind raced. The camera pinged my phone. An alert from the vent. I checked later. Mark, in our bedroom that afternoon. Her begging him to leave, him grabbing her arm, both frantic. Goldmine. I saved the footage, my pulse steady. The mask was slipping, and I was ready to rip it off. Thursday, the house was a pressure cooker. Emily barely spoke, her phone silent for once. Mark must have gone dark after their fight. I kept up the act, asking about her day, offering small comforts. She brushed me off, locked herself in her office. I checked the tracker. No hotel, no condo, just home. They were spooked, pulling back. Time to push harder. I'd built the trap. Now I'd spring it. I started with Mark. His gambling debt was the key. Using the burner, I posed as a collector. Asterisk payment overdue. Reynolds. We know where you work. Wire $5,000 by Friday or we talk to your boss. Asterisk I included just enough detail from Dave's report to sell it. Dates, amounts. He'd panic, scramble, maybe even turn to Emily for cash. Meanwhile, I hit her again. Her next project was a pitch for a big agency. Files on her laptop. Due Monday. I logged in, swapped the final designs with rough drafts, garbled the text in her proposal. She'd present garbage, tank her shot. 2 birds, 1 stone. Friday, the fallout began. Emily left early, pale and distracted, off to salvage her client mess. I assumed. I stayed home, called in sick, and watched the camera feed. Nothing yet, but the tracker showed her circling downtown, then Mark's condo. I pictured her begging him for answers, him snapping about the debt threat. Dave texted. Asterisk boss pulled Mark into a meeting. Expense audits on. Asterisk the email had worked. He'd be sweating bullets now, cornered on both fronts. That afternoon, I mailed another package, this time to Emily, care of her P.O. box for freelance stuff. Inside, a USB drive with the bedroom footage, labeled, Smile for the camera. No note, just the file. She'd find it tomorrow, maybe Sunday. Let her wonder who'd seen them, who'd caught her. I wanted her paranoid, jumping at shadows. Mark got a second hit too. Another burner text. Asterisk we're watching. Pay up. Asterisk short, vague, enough to keep him up at night. She came home late, exhausted, eyes hollow. Long day, she muttered, collapsing on the couch. I nodded, handed her tea laced with just enough valerian to knock her out. Herbal. Harmless, but effective. She slept hard, didn't stir when I slipped her phone from her purse. More texts from Mark. Asterisk who's doing this? We're screwed. Asterisk her reply. Asterisk I don't know. I'm scared. Asterisk I smirked, deleted my traces, and went to bed. The trap was sprung, and they were thrashing in it. Saturday, Emily found the USB. I'd timed it, left the house to run errands. Watched her car stay put on the tracker. When I got back, she was in the office, door shut, but I heard the gasp through the wall. She'd seen the footage. I knocked, casual. You okay? Silence, then a shaky, yeah, fine. She emerged later, face white, avoiding my eyes. Headache, she said, heading upstairs. I let her go, knowing her mind was spinning. Who'd filmed them? How much did they know? Mark was unraveling too. Dave called, guy's a wreck. Missed work, boss chewing him out over padded expenses. Loan sharks might be real. Someone's hounding him. I didn't correct him. The fake debt threats were working. Mark was drowning, dragging Emily with him. Her phone buzzed all day, him probably, but she didn't answer. I checked later. Asterisk we need to end this. They're everywhere. Asterisk her response. Asterisk I can't. Not yet. Asterisk she was clinging to him, even now. Pathetic. I kept the pressure on. Sunday, I leaked the botched logo fiasco to a design forum she followed. Anonymous post, screenshots of her final work calling her out as sloppy. Her peers pounced, tearing into her rep. She'd see it soon, feel the sting. Meanwhile, I sent Mark's boss more dirt, copies of his expense reports, doctored to show bigger hotel tabs emailed from the burner. By Monday, he'd be facing a review, maybe worse. That night, she broke. I found her in the kitchen, wine glass shaking in her hand. "Someone's after me," she whispered. "My work, my everything." I hugged her, played the rock, while inside I seethed. "We'll figure it out," I lied. She nodded, clinging to me, the man tearing her apart. The irony was delicious. Mark texted again. "I'm done. They're closing in." She didn't reply, just stared at the wall. The unraveling was complete. Now I tightened the noose. Monday, the collapse accelerated. Emily left early, frantic to save her agency pitch. I knew she'd fail. The swapped files would humiliate her in front of execs. I stayed home, watched the tracker. She went straight to the meeting, then to Mark's. Perfect. I drove to his condo, parked nearby, and waited. He stumbled out at noon, disheveled, carrying a duffel, running. Maybe. I followed him to a bank, watched him withdraw cash. The fake debt had him spooked enough to pay. I grinned, cold and hard. Time for the pivot. I planned revenge, but not the usual kind. No shouting, no messy confrontations. This was structural, slow, deliberate, cruel in its precision. I called her insurance again, canceled her car policy, effective immediately. She'd find out when it lapsed, stranded somewhere. Then I drained our joint account. Moved every cent to a new one she couldn't touch. Left her with nothing but her freelance gigs, which were crumbling fast. She'd feel the squeeze soon. Mark was next. I kept his address, knew his habits from Dave. Using the prepaid camera, I'd filmed his condo entrance days ago. Caught him with another woman, not Emily, timestamped last week. A bonus betrayal. I mailed it to Emily's P.O. box, no label, just the tape. She'd see it tomorrow, realize he wasn't just hers. The knife would twist deeper. For him, I sent a final burner text. She knows about the blonde. Good luck. Let him scramble to explain that one. That evening, she came home a wreck. The pitch was a disaster, she sobbed. They laughed me out. I nodded, offered a shoulder, while checking my phone. Her car insurance cancellation had hit. She'd get the notice soon. It'll be okay, I said, voice flat. She didn't notice the edge. Her phone lit up Mark again, but she silenced it, too broken to care. I slept easy that night, the cruel pivot in motion. They destroyed my trust. I'd destroy their worlds. And I wasn't done. Tuesday dawned with a quiet I hadn't felt in weeks. Emily was still asleep when I left. Her face streaked from crying, oblivious to the next blow. I timed it perfectly. Her car insurance notice hit her email at 8 a.m., flagged as urgent. She'd wake to that, then find the joint account empty when she tried to pay bills. I'd moved the money offshore, a trick I'd learned from a client years ago. Untraceable, locked behind layers she'd never crack. She'd have nothing but her laptop and a crumbling career. I checked the tracker, her car stayed put. Good. She'd be reeling, calling banks, insurers, spiraling as it sank in. Meanwhile, I drove to Mark's condo, the duffel he'd packed still in his trunk. He hadn't run yet, too rattled to think straight. The footage of him with the blonde was in Emily's P.O. box by now. She'd pick it up soon, see his second betrayal. I wanted her to feel that sting before I dropped the hammer. At noon, I called her from a burner, disguised my voice. Check your mail, I said, rough and low, then hung up. She'd go, curious and terrified. I pictured her opening the tape, watching Mark with another woman, the realization hitting like a sledge. She'd call him, scream, maybe drive to his place. I waited, parked a block from the post office, and sure enough, her car rolled in at 1:15. She emerged 10 minutes later, clutching the package, face ashen. She sped off, toward Mark's, the tracker confirmed. I followed, keeping distance. She banged on his door. He opened it, and the shouting spilled into the street. I recorded it, her yelling about the blonde, him denying, then admitting it in a desperate slur. It didn't mean anything, he shouted. She slapped him, stormed back to her car. I smiled, cold and steady. The shattering had begun. Not just their affair, but their trust in each other. I'd engineered every fracture, and they were breaking apart beautifully. That night, she came home silent, eyes hollow. "Where were you?" I asked casual. "Out," she muttered, avoiding me. Her phone was dead, probably drained from calling him, banks, anyone who'd listen. I'd already rerouted her freelance payments to a dummy account. Her next check would bounce. "Rough day." Depressed. She nodded, fled upstairs. I let her go, knowing she'd find the insurance notice soon. Then the empty account. The walls were closing in, and she didn't even know I'd built them. Wednesday, I turned it public. Emily's design forum post had gained traction. Her peers shredding her over the botched logo, calling her a hack. I fanned the flames, using sock accounts to leak more. Snippets of her pitch disaster, whispers of unprofessional conduct. By noon, her name was mud in the freelance world. She'd see it soon, lose the last shred of her identity. I wanted her humiliated, stripped bare where it hurt most. Mark's turn came next. His expense audit had spiraled. My doctored reports tipped off HR, and Dave confirmed he'd been suspended pending review. I pushed it further. Emailed his coworkers from the burner, posing as a whistleblower. Asterisk check his gambling tabs. Company cards dirty. Asterisk true or not, it'd spark chaos. His smug little life, condo, Audi, ego would crumble under scrutiny. I pictured him scrambling, calling lawyers, while Emily nursed her own wounds. She found the account drained that afternoon. I was home, pretending to work, when she stormed in. "The money's gone," she yelled, voice cracking. "Did you do something?" I feigned shock. "What?" "No, call the bank." She did, pacing, near tears as they stonewalled her. I covered my tracks. They'd find nothing. Then her phone pinged, the forum thread, trending now. She scrolled, gasped, dropped it like it burned. "They hate me," she whispered. I nodded, all sympathy, while inside I gloated. Her public fall was complete. That night, Mark texted her. I'd cloned her phone days ago, saw it live. Asterisk, I'm out. Job's gone. You're toxic. Asterisk, she didn't reply, just curled up on the couch, staring at nothing. I left her there, broken, and slept like a king. The revenge wasn't loud or violent. It was a slow, public dismantling, and it felt better than I'd dreamed. Thursday, I laid the final pieces. Emily hadn't left the house. Her car wouldn't start anyway. I'd loosen the battery cable overnight. She'd think it was fate piling on, not me. I called her biggest client, posed as her assistant, and rescheduled her next meeting to a date she'd miss. Another nail in her career's coffin. Then I packed a bag, small and discreet, and left it in my trunk. She didn't notice. She was too lost in her unraveling life. Mark was my last loose end. I drove to his condo, saw the for sale sign already up. Desperate to liquidate, I guessed. His Audi was gone, traded for cash or repossessed. I mailed one last package to his office, redirected to his home. The full bedroom footage uncut with a note. Asterisk, she kept this. Enjoy the rerun. Asterisk, let him think she'd betrayed him too. Filmed him for leverage. The paranoia would eat him alive. Back home, Emily was a ghost. She'd found the car dead, called a tow, but her card declined. My rerouted funds at work. What's happening? She whispered, more to herself than me. I shrugged. Bad luck, maybe. She didn't buy it, but she had no proof. I'd been careful, burners, proxies, no fingerprints. That night, I cooked dinner, her favorite, ironic and cruel. She barely ate, eyes darting to me like she sensed something. She was right, but too late. Friday, I staged the endgame. I filed for divorce, papers drawn up weeks ago, served to her at noon by a courier while I worked late. The terms were brutal. I claimed everything, house, savings, even her laptop as shared property. She'd get nothing, not even a fight. Her reputation and finances were too wrecked to lawyer up. I texted her from my real phone. Check the door. She'd find the papers, realize I'd known all along. I didn't go home. I checked into a hotel, watched the tracker, her car still dead, her stuck. She called me, sobbing, but I let it ring. The final pieces were in place. Her isolated, penniless, shamed. Him jobless, paranoid, alone. I'd taken their worlds apart, brick by brick, and left them in the rubble. Saturday, I savored the aftermath. Emily's calls stopped. She'd given up, or maybe her phone died. Cut off, no doubt, when the bill hit my rerouted account. I drove by the house, saw her through the window, pacing, lost, a shadow of the woman I'd married. The divorce papers sat on the table untouched. She'd sign eventually. She had no choice. I'd already listed the house, movers booked for Monday. She'd be out, scrambling for a lifeline I'd severed. Mark's condo was quiet too, no sign of him. Dave texted, "Guy's MIA. Word is he skipped town. Debts chasing him." The footage I'd sent had done its job, pushed him over the edge. I pictured him holed up somewhere, jumping at every knock, wondering if Emily had sold him out. She hadn't, but he'd never know that. The blonde twist was the cruelest touch. It'd haunt them both. I spent the day tying up threads, canceled her credit cards, forwarded her mail to a P.O. box she'd never find. Her freelance site went dark. Hacked it weeks ago, shut it down now. Every tether she had, money, work, home, I'd cut. She'd wake to a life erased. No clue how I'd orchestrated it. Mark, too, was a ghost, his career torched, his swagger gone. My revenge wasn't blood or fists. It was absence, a void I'd carved around them. That night, I sat in the hotel, sipping bourbon, replaying it all. 12 years with her, 6 months of him, undone in weeks. I didn't feel joy, just a cold, quiet satisfaction, like finishing a perfect blueprint. The cruelty was in the silence, the way I'd left them nothing to fight. They'd betrayed me. I'd unmade them. It was enough. Sunday, I started over. The movers came Monday, cleared the house. Her stuff dumped in storage she'd never afford to claim. I sold it fast, below market, just to be rid of it. The money went offshore, joined the rest, a nest egg for me alone. Emily texted once, weak and pleading. Why? I didn't reply. She'd figure it out or not. Didn't matter. I was done. Mark surfaced online. A desperate post begging for work, deleted fast. Too late. His name was poison now. I didn't check further. He was irrelevant. A footnote crushed under my heel. Emily's forum thread died down, her disgrace old news. She'd fade too. A nobody with no portfolio, no husband, no life. I'd built them up in my mind once. Now they were dust. I moved, a new city, new firm, new everything. The hotel became a condo, sparse and clean. No echoes of her. I kept working, designing bridges taller than before, each one a monument to my control. Friends asked about the split. I shrugged, said we drifted. No one pressed. The story stayed mine, locked away like the files I'd buried. Months later, I heard she'd crashed with a cousin, scraping by on odd jobs. Mark vanished, rumor said rehab or worse. I didn't care. They were gone. Their betrayal a scar I'd paved over. The revenge was cruel, yes, systematic, surgical, a collapse they'd never climb out of. But it was mine, and it was final. I'd built a life once with her. Now I'd built one without them. Stronger, colder, unyielding. And that was the end.